Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. This is the live stream with Rachel and Carrie, and today we are talking about working with your friends. Hello. If you're here, let us know in the chat, in the replay, type us a comment. We are so happy to have you here. If you don't know, I'm Rachel Archelaus, and I'm the founder of the Intuitive Art Academy and Daily Alignment, and author of lots of books. I'm Intimate Alien, do a lot of things, and so I need a lot of support. I've worked with a lot of people. Carrie Roldan is a dear friend of mine who I've been working with for such a long time. She's worked with lots of people. So I feel like we have a lot to share today. Some good stories, some horror stories, and it's going to be exciting. If you have any questions, put them in the chat for us and we'll discuss.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I became known as the business BFF, and everyone was like, don't call yourself that, because you're going to want people to pay you to like be their friend or whatever. And it was something that I struggled with for a while, but what I came to recognize is I don't want to work with anybody who I don't want to be friends with, right? Like if they hire me, and we'll talk about different sort of working relationships, but in the very beginning, it was like, well, if what I do feels like something that I would want to do for my very best friend, right? If my very best friend came to me and said, "Hey, Carrie, I want to launch this thing," or I want to there's a way that I want to work with you, right? Which is like collaborative, and what do you think about this? And honest, like, hey, I don't know if anybody's told you this, but or I guess it's the same thing. Like, hey, I got to tell you, this isn't what you want to do, something like that. Anyhow, all that to be said is, I think for me, I can't work with someone who I couldn't on some level be friends with. It doesn't mean I only work with my friends, but like when I'm determining whether or not I'm going to choose to work with someone, a big part of it is like, could I be friends with them? Do I like them? Do I want to hang out with them? Because if we're working together, we're going to be hanging out. So, yeah, I mean, same for you, Rachel, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, I have hired people who I didn't know before, and I feel like it's really difficult, especially when you're in a remote situation, when you're not in the same room with people. It's really hard to develop trust and to understand their communication styles. And so after many years of working with people I didn't know, I decided I only want to work with people that I already know, who are better at things than I am, that I already trust, that I know will like do what they say they will do, right? So they're self-motivated. And that has just worked really well, because I know a lot of small business people, they don't want to be managers. And I don't want to be a manager. I am pretty terrible at being a manager, to be honest. I don't like policing work and telling people what to do. Now, of course, if things need to be changed or updated, or they misheard me, like, we can have talks about that. I'm okay with that, asking for what I want and knowing my vision. But I just want people to do what they say they're going to do. And that is what I have had for a really long time now. And it's been incredible. And I started working with my friends long before even this company. Back when I started my publishing company a long time ago, 2008, a long time ago, I only worked with people that I knew, because I already worked in publishing. So I knew people who did all these things like typesetting and covers, all that kind of stuff, editing. So I just hired those people, and it was so much fun to work with people that I love. And I still do it to this day. So there is a story where it didn't go well that I'll tell you about. But for the most part, if you just hire people that you already trust, who are really good at what they do, it's going to go well. As long as you have open communication. You need to make sure before you get into it that you both agree on the terms, you feel good about compensation, expectations. Like, you really need to over communicate in order for things not to go bad.
And I think that's the trickiest thing about working with friends is that conversation, right? Because there's lots of things that you do with friends as a favor, like, oh, sure, I'll take a look at that thing for you that like normally I would charge someone to take a look at their thing, but oh, it's you, Rachel. Sure, just send it over, right? But then there comes a point where it's like, you're doing this all the time, Rachel. Now let's talk, and that can be tricky. That can be tricky between friends, and honestly, that is where sometimes it has gone wrong for me, is when I'm not really clear in my boundary or the other person isn't really clear in their boundary. Yeah, that's where like working with friends can feel like uncomfortable and complicated. But it's also all learning. So I'm super curious, before we go too much further, why did you choose this topic today?
I chose this topic because we've talked about a lot of things and a lot of like self-employment things. And I just feel like we've never talked about this specific thing, and we both have a lot of different experience in it. And so like, I know a lot of small business owners, they're in two camps. I never want to hire anyone because they're kind of afraid of being a manager. They're afraid of other people doing things poorly, right? And them just having to redo it. And then there's people who hold themselves back because they think they can only accomplish what they want with a big team, right? And so there's just a lot of, in the head indecision about hiring people. And so because we've worked together so well, I figured we have a lot to offer.
Yeah. Well, so maybe guys, I see several of you are watching and saying hello to each other, so yay. And if you have questions either for us about working with friends, because we were friends for a long time before we started working together, or if you have questions about thinking about hiring someone, or like, put them in the chat. Let's tell the story of how we came to work together.
Well, first I want to say that the biggest reason I love working with my friends, people I trust, people who are good at what they do, is because what we create together is greater than what I could do on my own. That is the benefit to working with people who are excellent at what they do and who you trust and love, whether that comes from knowing them beforehand or developing a relationship while you're working. But the collaborative, like creating something greater than you could do on your own, is so satisfying and so incredible that it's absolutely worth it to pursue working with people. So, how did we come together?
Do you remember?
A little bit. Like, I remember we kind of like danced around it for like 6 months. We kind of like, I was like, Carrie, I think we should work together. And you were like, Rachel, I've been feeling that way too. And then all of a sudden, we were going to come together with the Intuitive Art Academy, and you were going to be our community manager, basically. And like the certification, something, we called you something, certification, something. And you took over some meetings. We did live streams together, and you made a huge difference in our community, and it was incredible. But I remember it happening really easily because we didn't push it. We didn't jump ahead of ourselves. We really waited until we felt solid in what we were going to do.
Yeah. So I remember knowing that like I could work with you, that I wanted to work with you because I had promoted your stuff. Like, and I promoted a lot of people's stuff. So one of the things about me is if you have something, like, I think it's the greatest thing ever, I want to tell everyone about it. And so I spent the beginning of my business life doing a lot of that, like telling my people about everybody else's stuff. And I even had a show where I would like interview people regularly. And Rachel wound up being someone that I interviewed, I think, several times. But I would spend a lot of time marketing other people's things, and almost nobody stuff sold. Or if it did sell, the people weren't paying me. Like, you were the person who I could count on. If I mail about Rachel's stuff, if I like, people will buy it and Rachel will pay me. And so that told me, like, we have alignment beyond our friendship, because we were also friends. We were in the same mastermind together. But we were friendly. Like, we've definitely become closer friends, I think, since we've been working together. Because we're working together, because we're like, oh, we should talk about that, you know? And that's one of the things that I love about the way that we have chosen to work together is Rachel said, I have these needs. And I was able to say, well, we'd known each other for long enough that I could say, ooh, I could meet that need, that need, that need. No way I want to meet these other needs. Initially, I think I was agreeing to things that I probably didn't want to do, but feeling like someone needs to do them, I'll do them. And then, like, quickly it was like, oh no, she actually wants me to only do what I love. Right. And so that was really something beautiful about our working relationship that hasn't necessarily been the case in other working with friends relationships that I've had, where, and I think I could be guilty of it too. Like, it's great. I really want to work with you and I need this done. I was hoping you would be the person to get it done. And they're like, yeah, no, it's not me. You got to hire someone else. Yeah. So I don't know. That's one of the things working with you that has been great. Do you want to tell lessons learned the hard way?
Yeah. So I just want to say that is, I mean, I am like in integrity in all areas of my life. If I am not going to do something I don't want to do, I'm certainly not going to make someone else do it, that is to my detriment sometimes. Sometimes working relationships don't work out because they don't really want to do what they signed up to do. And I'm never going to say like, well, sorry, tough, you got to do it. It's like, no, all right, we're going to part ways. Um, I've had assistants before that just didn't end up working out, and that's going to happen. Not everyone is going to work out, but the time that I hired a friend and then it didn't work out I was probably just not in a good vibration, right? So our vibration dictates what our life is like. And I got divorced. I moved out. I moved in with someone I sort of knew from work. She really wanted me to move in with her. I was teaching her intuitive art at the time. That's how I knew her. And we ended up collaborating on my candle company. If you are familiar with that, we started a home party sector of it where she would go and like do parties and sell. And I had all of my stuff at her house because that's where I lived at the time, and like all my molds and like just all my business stuff. And she ended up kicking me out, and I left everything there. Like, I don't have any of my candle molds anymore, any of my equipment, any of that stuff. I've replaced some of it. I still do a little bit of candle making on my own, but it was just like, I wasn't in a good place. I didn't have good character judgment. It was never going to work out, regardless of who I was hiring at the time, because I just wasn't there, right? Like, you create from the vibration that you're in. And I was just so overwhelmed at the time with life. And that's what happened. So this is not about how horrible she was. This is about, you really need to take care of yourself, especially if you're in business, because you can't just sort of show up and rely on the momentum of a company. You are the company. And so you need to hold yourself up to where you want to be. What do you want to receive? Well, you've got to match that. And I wasn't really doing it at the time. It all worked out. It's all fine. I'm not mad about it, but cautionary tale.
But are you still friends with her?
No, I haven't talked to her since then. No.
So I have a similar story a friend who I was helping. Well, this actually might be, of course, it's about me, but I was helping like as a friend. And she was like, well, she and her partner were like, well, we need to hire you to do this. And I was like, yeah, great. And I gave him a price. And I think that the price felt really high to her, but she also knew me and like knows how amazing I am, like all the things, and felt like, okay, we'll pay it. And they did. And then it was misaligned in that my price felt really high to them and really low to me. Like I felt like I was giving them like a favor price. And so it was like I did want to help them. But because I didn't charge them, I probably charged them what I felt like they could pay instead of charging them what I knew I required. um, I wound up feeling really, really resentful and like they were so demanding. And these both of the people actually I think are great people. One of them I was much closer to than the other. And nothing bad happened. Like I delivered the work a little resentfully, but like I did it and they received it and were grateful. And eventually I did sort of have to put up some boundaries, like, I'm kind of done here. Like our time is up. We've met. The back and forth with them was like way more than what I would have done probably with somebody else. And we just haven't been like close friends since. Like it was misaligned. It felt, and I don't think either of us, like if you talk to either of us, there's no like, it's just like working with you, Rachel, right? We found each other in a place of alignment, and working together has only made us closer. And this particular thing, like working together, was kind of like the end, where I still consider her a friend. I think she still considers me a friend, but like we used to talk a lot and now we hardly ever talk. So, yeah, it's just a cautionary tale in your own vibration.
Yeah, how things start will be how they end usually. And none of us really want to hear that, because when we have our minds set on something, usually we'll try to make it work. We'll do whatever we can to accommodate. We'll force it. And that just sort of ends up blowing up usually. So be really honest with yourself. What do I wish someone else could do for me? Do I know anyone who is amazing at that? Let's have a chat with them, and see how it feels. Don't go ahead of yourself. Don't scream out loud, oh my God, I got to hire you for this. Like, take your time and feel it out. Maybe have them do a sample project or a trial for a week or a month, right? Like, see what is going on. And sometimes you need to be very aware of someone's capacity. Not sometimes, all the time, right? I work with my sister. I've worked with my mom before. Hi, Mom. She watches these. And my dad watches these too. I just found out. Hi, Dad. Hi, Gary. Like, you need to treat people that work for you like people. They're not machines, right? And so there's going to be illnesses, there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be things that they thought they wanted to do that they don't want to do anymore. They're going to need to maybe change how they do certain things or learn to do something, and they're going to need more support. So it's a huge responsibility to hire someone, whether it's a contractor or you're paying a percent or you're paying a salary. I've done all those things, and I do all those things. So, but you need to remember, like, you have to rise to be a leader. You have to feel like, okay, I can handle this. And that doesn't mean like, okay, you need to spend tons of money, or you need to have full-time people, or you need to have a huge team. It's just whenever you're going to be working with someone, you need to feel the stability within yourself that you can handle it, because they are real people. And there's going to be stuff that comes up, and you're probably going to have to say something once in a while that you don't want to say. but it will be okay if you have a foundation of communication and trust. Like, I've worked with many people for, like, some of the people I work with now, I've worked with since 2008, since I started my publishing company. And it's been incredible the whole time, you know, like, if you have that clear vision, vibration, communication, I think you can kind of get through everything as long as you're flexible.
So I feel like there's a couple of different things here. And I'm looking at just the people who are on live right now and considering their businesses. And so there is choosing to go into a project with a friend, right? Like co-creating a new thing together. That's one way you can work with a friend. Another way to work with a friend, right, is Jane can hire me or I can hire Jane to do something like that, right? Or Jana can hire Jane or Jane can hire, right? Like, hi, Jane and Jana. And that is, so hiring, so I guess there's a difference between hiring your friend, which I think of as sort of like a permanent fixture inside of your business. Like one of the things that Rachel has hired me for, right, is to run groups, right? Small group calls, like, or bigger group calls.
Or to be a co-host on
yes,
aligned up level event.
Yes. But also, like, then there is buying your friends' products, which is working with your friend, going through their system, right? Right. So there's a few different ways to like consider them. And I think for me, I'm cool with buying my friends' products. I really like buying my friends' products and going through their programs. For whatever reason, that feels slightly less like hiring them.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm still a student in their program. I've hired them to teach me something or to take me through an experience. I'm super good and comfortable with that. It's the hiring them to deliver something that has been a little bit trickier for me. And I think that is where having such good boundaries and good communication up front.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about, we coached together. Like, you hired me as a coach, and it was a specific amount of time. And I remember even I reached out to you and I was like, okay, Carrie, it's time. Let's do this. Like, because I knew I could see something in you that I could help you with. And I only do that if I'm like absolutely aligned with that. Like, my higher self has given me the thumbs up. Like, we've communicated on a higher level. Because I never offer coaching to someone I really don't feel I can benefit. But I also know I've coached a lot with friends, and I know I have the boundaries to be able to do that and to not coach them in real life and to like befriend Rachel and coach Rachel. And that's really worked out for me over the years. And so I feel like we did well with that. I know a lot of people worry about hiring their friends, but I feel like it depends on the person. Like, I know I can handle it and I love it. I love working with people I already know because we can go even deeper. But I also like always like sort of fall in love with all my clients and want to be their friends afterwards. And so I just had a conversation about this with a client who she said, hello, you're here. Like, she doesn't like the idea of something being transactional. Like, she wants to really know, like, okay, we're really here for each other. We really care about each other. Whether it's a therapist, a coach, or anyone you hire, you want to feel that real connection. And I do. And I feel like it's just so fun to work with your friends. It's like another way of working with your friends.
I think it's the deepening that is the difference maker for me, because you are different. Like, if I just call you up and say, hey, can we hop on a Zoom and chat? Let's catch up. I experience you differently than if I say, hey, I have an issue I need help with. Can we hop on a Zoom? Right. And even sometimes in the course of the catch up chat, you will say, well, do you want to work on that? Right. And you'll like switch, you'll put on another hat. I think I'm pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no matter who I'm talking to, no matter what. And what I found, right, is people were like, I need more of this, right? And I was like, cool. This is how much it costs to get me more often. And it's not because, like, it's just because otherwise I'd spend all day, every day just chatting with helping people all over. And yeah, there would be like demands on my time where I would start to feel depleted or resentful. And so I just charge, and people are happy to pay, right? Because they're getting value from the friend conversation, hence business BFF, guys, hence
Mm-hmm.
that. But I do think that that's a distinction between us, is I recognize, like, you're like, oh, I'm in coach mode, I'm charging. I am like, hey, there's only so much of me to go around. So
Yeah, well, I've learned over my life, maybe it's the whole group being thing, it probably is, but I'm like a very compartmentalized person, like totally random. But the other day I was telling a friend who lives near me, so we sort of just met in the last few years, how I love to dance and like I love to go to clubs and I love techno and like it's totally my jam. And she's like, I would never, ever know that about you. And I would tell anyone on earth that you do not like dancing and you hate to dance. And I was like, yeah, I know I don't look like a person who does, but when you see me, it's like, oh, wow, she does. So yeah, I feel like I don't know how I would possibly show all of me at once because there's just so many parts. I don't know.
that is true. And I am your friend, but I will never go to a techno show with you.
I know because you went with your husband and I was jealous.
And
Her husband likes the same music as me.
yeah, I do not. I did not like that at all. Okay, I feel like we've told a little bit about our story. I'm hopeful that it's been helpful for you guys who are watching. I know these topics don't come up for no reason.
Mhm.
So for whatever reason it came up because somebody who's watching needed to process that you're facing a decision about hiring a friend, or you're I don't know, or you're in a situation where maybe like a friend is taking advantage of your gifts and talents, and you need to find a way to say, hey, this is what I do professionally. Like, I'd absolutely love to take it to the next level with you, but now,
Yeah.
like, I've helped you a lot already, and if you want to keep going, let's talk about what that would look like. Right.
And it's okay to do that. Like you'll feel your boundary. If you start to resent the calls or not wanting to pick up the phone, like, or email them back or give any more advice on questions, like just tell them that. Be honest. It's like, being a coach is so free because we don't even have any equipment that we need, right? Like we can do it wherever we are. But imagine if you were a doctor and you needed to be in your office with all your little tools, right? Like you'd say, hey, come to the office. And then automatically there's a structure there to take care of that where, of course they're going to pay. They're going to go up to the counter. Well, just imagine yourself. Well, come into my office then, right? Like sit down, imagine that in your mind of like, okay, I am a real business. I do have real skills. This is real talent. I've worked on this and I deserve to be compensated.
Yeah. And we all do.
It's fun. It's fun to make money. It's fun to do your gift,
And it's also fun to pay your friends, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to pay someone for it, you might as well pay someone you already love, as long as you're in alignment and they're going to deliver well, right? Like it feels so good to have that, at least for when I've paid friends to do things. I know Rachel loves paying me. So yeah, it feels good to be able to do that.
Yes. All right. Well, we love you. We love working with you. So thanks for being here. If you would like to work with us more, go to intuitiveart.com and look at the group coaching tab on the front page, nav, or become a certified intuitive artist and help people find their own clarity and confidence to do what they want to do in the world. Because being an intuitive artist is so freeing. It is so fun. And it is, I don't know, applicable to every profession under the planet, right? You can add it into anything because it's a tool for clarity. So intuitiveart.com for more information. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, friend.
Thank you. Bye.